I never thought I'd be standing here telling you this story, but sometimes life has a way of forcing you to face the harsh truths when you least expect it. Let me take you back to the moment everything changed for me. I was coming home for Christmas. After months of working hard and trying to stay afloat, I was eager to get back to the warmth of my family. You know that feeling, right? The anticipation of being surrounded by laughter, the smell of cookies in the oven, and that little bit of peace you get when you're back in the place that always made you feel safe. Christmas was supposed to be about family, about togetherness. I was ready for it, but when I walked through the door, nothing felt right. The house was eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that sits in your bones, making the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The lights weren't twinkling on the tree. There were no stockings hung by the fire, no familiar chatter of voices filling the rooms. I called out, expecting someone to come rushing into the hall to greet me, to give me a hug and ask how my trip had been. But there was nothing, just that awful, oppressive silence. I stepped further inside, each step echoing through the empty house. My heart began to race as my eyes scanned the rooms, the realization slowly sinking in. The house was completely empty. No one was here. I felt my stomach twist, my mind struggling to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. Where was everyone? They were supposed to be here, waiting for me, celebrating together. And then in the kitchen, I saw her, Grandma. She was sitting at the table, slowly eating leftover food, her frail hands moving deliberately, as if she had all the time in the world. She didn't even look up when I walked in. It was as if she had accepted something I wasn't ready to face. "Grandma?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but I couldn't help the shakiness that crept into it. She lifted her gaze from her plate and smiled, but it wasn't the warm, loving smile I was hoping for. There was something resigned about it, something that made my heart ache. "Well, look who finally made it home," she said, her voice soft and raspy from age. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, but she didn't seem all that surprised to see me. It was like she knew exactly what I was about to walk into. I tried to smile back, but it didn't feel right. "Where is everyone? Where's Mom? Dad? The kids?" Grandma sighed, and for a second I thought she might cry, but she didn't. Instead, she just shook her head slowly, her eyes holding something I couldn't quite place. "They're gone, sweetheart. Went on a family cruise. Left me here with a note for you." My heart stopped. A family cruise? My mind scrambled, trying to process her words, but they didn't make sense. I took a few slow steps forward, my eyes darting toward the counter. There, on the marble surface, was a folded piece of paper. I could barely bring myself to touch it, but I did. My hands were trembling as I unfolded the note. The words hit me like a slap in the face. "Spent your $22,500 loan on a family cruise. Take care of her." I felt the world tilt beneath me. That money, the $22,500 I had taken out on their behalf, to help them out of a financial mess they'd created, they used it for a vacation. A vacation I wasn't even invited to. I was stunned, hurt, betrayed. My stomach churned as anger flared up inside me. But before I could say anything, Grandma's calm voice cut through the chaos in my head. "We'll fix this," she said, her words like a gentle balm. But something about the way she said it didn't make it sound as comforting as I wanted it to be. I didn't respond immediately. My mind was a whirlwind, a storm of emotions I couldn't fully process. I just nodded, my lips tight, my heart breaking. This wasn't just a Christmas I had imagined. It was the beginning of something I never saw coming. But Grandma was right about one thing. We would fix this. I wasn't sure how, but I wasn't about to let them get away with it. Not this time. I always thought I understood the weight of family. Growing up, it was drilled into me. Family comes first. And I believed that with every fiber of my being. Maybe I was too naive, but I thought that meant you did whatever it took to help them, to make sure they were okay, even when it meant putting your own needs aside. That's why I took out the $22,500 loan in the first place. They needed it. My parents had fallen on hard times, and my sister, well, she was struggling with her own mess. I couldn't just sit by and do nothing. I was the one who had the means to help, even if it meant going into debt for it. I told myself it was temporary, that once they got back on their feet, everything would return to normal. I didn't think twice about it. I didn't question whether it was the right choice or not. I just did what felt like the right thing to do, because that's what family does, right? They sacrifice for each other. But standing in that kitchen, holding the note, everything I thought I knew about sacrifice and love came crashing down around me. I couldn't even get the words out when Grandma told me what they'd done. My heart was pounding in my chest, and my breath came in shallow gasps. They spent my money. The money I worked so hard for, money I borrowed to keep our family afloat, money that was supposed to secure our future, not fund vacation. I tried to wrap my mind around it. But how could I? It wasn't just about the money. It was about the betrayal. It was the way they'd taken something that I'd given in good faith and turned it into a luxury for themselves. They didn't need a cruise. They needed to pay off bills, to take care of responsibilities, to make sure the family was okay. Instead, they chose themselves. They chose pleasure over the people who had been there for them. And then there was the part that hit me the hardest. The part one couldn't shake, no matter how hard I tried. I had always been the one to put them first. I always gave without asking for anything in return. I convinced myself that this was love, that I was doing the right thing. But now, in the silence of that cold house, I started to question everything. Had I been a fool? Had I been so blinded by the idea of family that I couldn't see how they were using me? How I was just a safety net they could fall back on when things got tough. And when everything was fine, they could forget about me and go on with their lives without a second thought. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, something heavy and raw. Was I just a means to an end? Was I really the person who would always give no matter what, while they took and never once gave anything back? I thought I was helping them. But in the end, it was me who was left holding the pieces. Grandma's voice brought me back from my spiraling thoughts. "We'll fix this." The calmness in her tone was like an anchor in a storm. For a moment, I let myself feel comforted by it, but then I looked around again. The emptiness of the house, the cold silence, the empty chairs at the dinner table, it all hit me. Things needed to change. I wasn't the same person I was when I first took out that loan. I wasn't the naive, wide-eyed girl who believed in the idea of family above all else. No, I was starting to see things clearly. I was starting to see the way my family had taken advantage of my kindness, my generosity. They didn't appreciate what I did for them. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe I let them walk all over me. But that's going to change now. I can feel it inside me, deep down. A flicker of resolve. I'm not going to sit around and let them walk all over me anymore. I looked at Grandma, and for the first time in a long time I saw the strength in her eyes. She wasn't giving up, and neither would I. We would fix this. But this time, things would be different. This time, I wouldn't be the one doing all the giving. This time, it was my turn to stand up for myself. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. No more. I wish I could say that this was the first time my family had taken advantage of me. I really do. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't. In fact, I've lost count of how many times they've used me. How many times I've given everything I had, only to watch them turn their backs when it was my turn to ask for something. It's not like I'm looking for a medal or anything. I never expected them to thank me or to do anything for me in return. But what I did expect was a little bit of respect. Just some acknowledgement for all the times I went above and beyond to help them, even when it meant I was sacrificing my own peace of mind, my own financial stability. Take my mom, for example. A few years ago, when she couldn't pay her medical bills, I was the one who stepped up. I took out a loan, just like I did this time, and paid off what she owed. I didn't even question it. I didn't think twice. It was just something I had to do. And after I did, I watched her go on with her life as if nothing had happened. As if I didn't just drain my savings to help her. She never even said thank you. Not once. And then there's my sister. She's always had her own problems. Dating the wrong guys, racking up debt, and expecting everyone else to pick up the pieces. I'd helped her out more times than I could count. One time, she needed money for a car repair, and of course, I was there to cover it. I didn't ask questions. I just did it. And once again, when everything was okay, she was off living her best life, while I was left dealing with my own struggles. But none of that stung as much as this. None of it hurt like the betrayal I was feeling in that moment, standing in the kitchen with that damn note in my hands. The $22,500 I borrowed, money I worked hard for, wasn't used for what I'd intended it for. I hadn't taken that loan to buy them luxury cruises or fun vacations. I took it so they could pay their bills, get back on their feet, and start making smarter decisions. I did it because I believed in family, because I believed that if I helped them, they'd do the right thing. They'd pay me back and we'd all be okay. But no, they used my sacrifice to fund their own selfish desires. They didn't even think twice about how I'd feel, about what I'd go through just to make their lives easier. Instead, they decided they'd take a damn family cruise, a vacation, as if my $22,500 was just a drop in the bucket, something they could use to escape their responsibilities and go live in a bubble of indulgence. And what hurt the most wasn't just the money. It was the realization that they never even saw me. They never saw my sacrifices. They didn't care how much I had given, how much I had put on the line for them. They just took and took and took, never thinking that maybe, just maybe, I'd need something in return, or that maybe I deserved something more than empty promises. I'll never forget the feeling when I first saw that note. Spent your $22,500 loan on a family cruise. Take care of her. The words burned into my brain. Take care of her? Her being Grandma, who was sitting at the kitchen table, eating leftovers and looking at me with those tired, wise eyes. I looked at Grandma then, sitting there so calmly, and I felt my anger boil over. She didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this. But as I stood there, reading that damn note, I also knew that I couldn't just let this go. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about how they treated me, how they used me like an ATM, how they walked all over me without a second thought. They took everything, and they never even stopped to think about what I needed, what I was going through. This time it was different. I wasn't going to sit back and let it happen again. I was done being their doormat. I was done sacrificing for people who never even saw me. It was time to take back control. It was time to confront them. And this time, I wasn't going to let them get away with it. This was more than a loan. This was about respect. This was about me standing up for myself. And I wasn't backing down. Not this time. Grandma's words echoed in my mind. We'll fix this. But I could feel the weight of her calm assurance pressing on me. It was like she was asking me to wait, to be patient, to trust that everything would somehow work itself out. But I couldn't. Not this time. I looked at her as she sat there, slowly sipping her tea, her face unreadable. I knew she meant well, but she didn't understand. Not like I did. This wasn't just about money anymore. It wasn't just about a vacation gone wrong. It was about a lifetime of letting my family walk all over me. A lifetime of giving and giving, only to have them take without ever giving back. And this time they'd gone too far. I was done being the quiet, accommodating one. I couldn't sit around hoping they would come to their senses or realize the damage they'd done. No, it was time for me to take control. The question was, how? I started pacing around the kitchen, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I needed a plan, a real plan, something that would make them realize exactly what they'd done. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt, and I knew that if I didn't do something now, I'd just keep festering in this resentment. It would eat me alive, and I couldn't afford that. Not anymore. Grandma watched me silently, her eyes soft but steady. "What are you thinking, Emily?" she asked quietly. I stopped pacing and turned to her. "I'm thinking it's time to stop letting them walk all over me," I said, my voice firm. "They've used me enough. It's time for them to see the consequences of their actions." I could tell Grandma didn't fully understand the depth of my feelings. She'd always been the forgiving type, the one who believed in second chances, in families sticking together no matter what. But I wasn't like her. Not anymore. This was bigger than forgiveness. It was about standing up for myself. I had given enough. I needed them to understand the cost of their betrayal. I needed them to see how it felt to have something precious taken from you, something you worked so hard for, only to watch it be squandered. They couldn't just get away with it. Not this time. I started thinking about the best way to approach this. The loan. The cruise. They'd taken something from me and I needed it back, not just the money, but my dignity. I would confront them, but not in the way they'd expect. No shouting, no angry outbursts. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Instead, I would force them to see the damage they had done, make them face the reality of their selfishness. The first thing I needed to do was track down the receipts, the bookings, anything that could show exactly where the money went. I knew I had records of the loan, emails, statements, everything. I wasn't just going to show up at their door and demand an apology. No, I was going to come armed with the facts. I was going to make them look me in the eye and realize what they had done. I wasn't going to let them brush it off with some flimsy excuse. I had to make them see what they had taken from me. If they wanted to play games, then so could I. But this time, the stakes would be different. They would feel the weight of their choices. "Grandma, I'm going to make them pay for this," I said, my voice cold but determined. "They can't just take from me and think there are no consequences. It's time to make them understand." Grandma nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing in thought. She didn't say anything at first, but then she spoke quietly, as if measuring her words. "Just remember, Emily, sometimes the best revenge is to let go." I shook my head. I couldn't let it go. Not this time. The plan was set in motion, and I was going to see it through. I wasn't going to let my family get away with using me again. This was my time to take back control, and there was no going back. I felt my heart pounding as I sat in my car outside my family's house, hands clenched around the steering wheel. The weight of what I was about to do hung heavy on me, but there was no turning back now. This was it, the moment I'd been avoiding for years. The moment I finally confronted my family. I took a deep breath, pushing the nerves down. I wasn't going to let them see me sweat. I wasn't the same person who had blindly given, hoping one day they'd appreciate it. No more. Walking up to the front door, I could hear the laughter inside, the sound of them having a good time. They had no idea what was coming. I knocked, my mind racing with what I was going to say. It had to be perfect, precise. No more apologies, no more excuses. I was done being the martyr. When the door opened, I felt a rush of emotion. Anger, hurt, betrayal. But I held it in, not letting it show. Not yet. My family was gathered around the living room, looking surprised to see me. They clearly weren't expecting me, especially not like this. "Sit down," I said, voice steady but cold. They hesitated for a moment, but I could see them shifting uneasily. Good. They should be uneasy. This wasn't going to be a calm conversation. I sat down, my eyes scanning each one of them. Mom, Dad, and my sister. They all had the same look. Nervous, guilty, defensive. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. "You all owe me an explanation," I began, my voice low and unwavering. "I want to know how the hell you thought it was okay to spend my loan, on a family vacation." I saw my mom's eyes flicker with guilt, but she didn't speak. My dad shifted uncomfortably. I leaned forward, feeling the anger bubbling to the surface. "I've sacrificed everything for you. I've always been the one to step up, to help, to give. But this is beyond selfish." My voice shook with the weight of everything I had been holding back. "You used me. You took advantage of me. And now you're sitting here pretending nothing happened." They started to speak over each other, defensive and apologetic, but I wasn't having it. "No," I snapped, silencing them. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You took my money. You took my trust. And you don't even seem to care about what it's done to me." The room was tense, thick with silence. My family was scrambling for something to say, but I stood my ground. I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever again. "Tell me you understand," I demanded. "Tell me you realize what you've done." They couldn't look me in the eye, and that was all the answer I needed. The room was suffocating now, thick with the words I couldn't take back and the silence that followed. My family sat there, looking at me like they had no idea who I had become. The guilt in their eyes was palpable, but it wasn't enough to sway me. Not anymore. I had heard it all before. The tears, the apologies, the promises of change. But this time, I wasn't going to buy into it. Not again. My sister, the one who'd always had a knack for playing the victim, leaned forward. "Emily, you don't understand. We needed that vacation. Things have been so stressful lately, and it was just one trip," she said, her voice trembling, trying to make it sound like the whole thing was somehow justified. But it wasn't. I could see through it. This was her manipulation, trying to twist the narrative to make me feel guilty for being hurt. She wasn't sorry for what they had done. She was sorry that I had caught them. I shook my head, forcing myself to look at her without the compassion I had always given. "No, I understand perfectly. You don't care about me. You care about yourselves, your comfort, and your happiness. I was just the one you could always count on to clean up the mess. Well, I'm done cleaning up after you." My mom opened her mouth, probably to say something similar, but I didn't let her. Don't. Don't you dare try to guilt me into forgiving you. I've been the one to sacrifice, to give everything I had for you, and you just took it all for granted. I'm not the fool anymore. The truth hit me like a slap in the face. This wasn't just about money. It was about everything. They had used me, manipulated me, and convinced me for years that I was the one who was supposed to fix everything. I was the responsible one, the reliable one. But now I saw it. I wasn't just their scapegoat. I was their emotional crutch. And I had let it happen. For the first time, I felt the power surge inside me. I wasn't weak, and I wasn't a doormat. The energy that had once been drained from me was now starting to fuel something entirely different. Do you hear me? I asked, voice hard, cutting through their pitiful attempts at making me feel bad. I'm done with this. I've given enough, and I'm done fixing your mess. I'm going to live for me now. The realization came rushing in. I wasn't responsible for their happiness. I wasn't responsible for making them realize their mistakes. They were adults. They had to live with the consequences of their actions, just like I had to. I stood up, feeling the weight of my words settle into my bones. This was my turning point. My moment. The moment when I stopped caring about fixing them and started caring about fixing myself. The days following that confrontation felt like a fog, heavy with silence and tension. My family, once so confident in their manipulation, was now scrambling, trying to salvage what little dignity they had left. But I wasn't about to make it easy for them. I had already made up my mind. They had to learn that their actions had consequences, and I was done being the one who always cleaned up their mess. At first, they didn't know how to react. The quiet in the house was deafening. Then, one by one, they began to reach out. Texts, phone calls, and emails flooded my inbox, each one more desperate than the last. My mom, my sister, even my dad, each of them apologizing, claiming they were wrong, promising they would fix everything. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. I didn't respond right away. I wanted them to feel the weight of their mistakes. They had never been made to feel the consequences of their actions before. But this time was different. This time I was in control. This time they would answer to me. It was my sister who came over first. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. She tried to act like everything was normal, like she wasn't just trying to save her own skin. Em, she started, voice soft and pleading. We were wrong. Please forgive us. We made a huge mistake. I didn't realize how much you were sacrificing for us. We didn't mean to hurt you. I studied her for a moment. The desperation was almost pathetic. She knew she was losing ground, and she was doing whatever she could to regain control. But this time, I didn't feel sorry for her. This time I had the upper hand. Do you really expect me to just forgive you because you're sorry now? I asked, my voice calm, controlled. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. You think you can just throw a few sorries at me and everything will be fine? Her face fell, and I could see the panic creeping in. No, but we'll make it right, Emily. We'll pay you back. We'll fix this. I leaned back in my chair, watching her squirm under my gaze. You'll make it right? I repeated. Funny. You didn't think about that when you were on your cruise, did you? She flinched, but I wasn't done yet. You've taken enough from me, and I'm not letting you off the hook. If you really want forgiveness, you need to show me that you understand the damage you've done. For the first time, I saw her truly unsure of herself. The power I had always given up was now in my hands. I had control, and I wasn't afraid to use it. I want that $22,500 back, I said, my voice firm. Every penny, and I want it fast. If you don't, then I'll be taking legal action. I'll make sure you understand the consequences of what you did. Her jaw dropped. You're serious? She asked, her voice cracking. Dead serious, I replied. I'm done being the one to fix your mistakes. This time, I'm letting you live with them. And if you don't make it right, you'll regret it. She opened her mouth to argue, but I stopped her with a look. There was no going back now. She knew I wasn't bluffing. The tables had turned. They were no longer in control. The entitlement, the manipulation, they were crumbling before my eyes. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about power. My power. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could finally breathe. As my sister left, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. This was it. The revenge had started, and I was in control. No more being their emotional crutch. No more being their fallback. From now on, they would learn what it meant to take responsibility, and I would be the one to make sure of it. The days following my sister's visit felt like a countdown. My family was unraveling, one desperate plea after another. They came to me, each of them now fully aware that they had crossed a line they could never uncross. But I wasn't about to make it easy for them. I had already made up my mind I wasn't going to just forgive them for their actions. They needed to face the consequences, and I was determined to make sure they did. The final confrontation came days later when my parents showed up at my door. They were the last ones left, the ones who had started all of this, and they knew that if they didn't make it right with me, they would lose me forever. "Emily," my mom began, her voice shaky, "we're sorry. We were wrong. We shouldn't have taken that money. We should have known better. Please, we need you to forgive us." I looked at them, at both of their faces now wrinkled with guilt and fear. They were no longer the strong, authoritative figures they had once been in my life. They were vulnerable, human, and I could see how much they regretted their actions. But that wasn't enough. Not anymore. "Forgiveness doesn't come for free," I said quietly, making sure my voice carried. I wasn't about to be manipulated again. "You've taken enough from me. My trust, my money, my time. You've used me as your safety net, and I'm done being your backup plan." My mom started to cry, but I held up a hand. "You want me to forgive you? Fine, but it's going to cost you." My father, ever the practical one, nodded. "Anything, Emily. We'll make it right. Just tell us what you want." I looked them both in the eye. I wasn't asking for anything I didn't deserve. I want the $22,500 back, and I want it by the end of the month. Every cent. You'll get no more from me. I'm done being the one who bails you out. My dad nodded, and I could see the tension in his shoulders. He had no choice now. They had pushed me too far, and this time they were going to feel the weight of their actions. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the principle. They needed to learn that there were consequences for treating me like a doormat. "I'll transfer the money tomorrow," my dad said, his voice strained. "We'll pay it back, Emily. We promise." I didn't respond right away. I just stared at them, letting the silence settle between us. I wasn't doing this to be cruel. I was doing this because they needed to understand. They needed to feel the impact of what they had done, just as I had felt it. Finally, I stood up. "Good. Now, you'll know what it feels like to be held accountable for your actions." As I walked away from them, I felt a strange sense of peace. The bitterness I had carried around for so long was starting to fade. I had done what I needed to do. My family had finally seen the consequences of their actions, and for the first time in my life, I was standing on my own 2 feet, free from their manipulation. I knew that this wasn't the end, not completely, but it was the beginning of something new for me. I had found my strength. I had found my voice, and I would never let anyone take that away from me again. For the first time in a long time, I could finally breathe. And as I stepped away from the past and into my own future, I knew that no matter what happened next, I had done what was right for me. I was in control of my life now, and nothing could take that away from me. The story of my revenge wasn't just about money or a family betrayal. It was about reclaiming my power. And that was something no one could ever take from me again.